First of all, congratulations, Aishwarya. It is a great honor and a great moment for the entire search test team and me personally, because we are we are a new outfit. We started about a few months ago, and in a very short span of time, we have had about 2,500 users across various specialties and about 6,000 questions on our app. And it's a very emotional moment for me personally, because to see a very close friend, a fellow member of the search test family, you have not just been an user of search test, you also helped me create the Gynec Onco question bank. So it really is a very emotional moment for me. So how does it feel to be a topper?
It feels equally emotional for me also, Vinayak, because it all started as a small, it was a very small beginning. I was not even sure of writing the exam this year. Then finally, I started hunting for materials everywhere. I was seriously looking for some Gynec Onco materials everywhere. I practically could not find anything. Then I got in touch with you. Then we decided, okay, fine. Why don't we start creating something?
So yes,
started, and finally that really helped me. Finally,
the thing is that you evolved with the question bank. So how did you? There's a lot of people waiting to hear from you. So how did you start your preparation? How did you do your preparation?
Okay. Yeah. So this is the second attempt for me. I shouldn't call it the second attempt practically, because last time I gave my exam just in 20 days after my MD exams. So within 20 days, practically nobody can actually prepare everything quite well and right. Still, I got a rank of 72 last year. Now this year, I was really determined to get a rank, quite determined. So I was looking for books, which all books I have to read, and I finished them, and working out a lot of questions. That is the most important point, that actually highlights your weakness.
Okay.
A concept which we know, which we think we know very well, finally turns out to be a clinical dilemma when we actually try to answer that question. So
what are the books you use? What are the books you use?
The basic, I currently feel that the Bible of NEET SS preparation for Gynec Oncology is Hacker. Because I practically found a lot of questions which had been taken line by line from the book. This was last year's. So last year's exam was my first attempt to know the pattern of the exam and how the options would be, and how I wanted to I didn't want another trial attempt. I wanted it to be a short attempt. So last year I wanted to know from where the questions are being taken, and that is how I came to know it is totally Hacker. And maybe in AIMS they take it from Devita and all.
Okay. And what else did you use for your other preparation? How did you prepare for OpGyn part of it, or how did you prepare for the infertility part? I know it's a huge surprise for all of those who wrote the exams. You've been preparing for Gynec Oncology, and suddenly reproductive medicine comes into the fray. So how do you handle that in a very short period of time?
Totally, Vinay, because until the examination applications came out, now we were not aware that infertility and Gynec Oncology are going to be clubbed. So my all 4-month preparation, practically it was a 4-month preparation. So the 4-month preparation was targeted only at Gynec Onco. At the time of application, when I had to choose the options, option 1 and option B, there was no option 1 and option B. It was all combined. For a minute, I actually took back. I thought maybe I shouldn't have appeared this year, because I haven't prepared for infertility at all. Then, okay, I thought, okay, why don't you give an attempt again?
Okay. And how did you manage to find the time to study? How did you manage? Because you are working, you have a family, and I know it's pretty stressful with all those sort of stuff. So, how many hours per day did you study?
Yeah. So actually, after the lockdown from April onwards, I did not have much work. I had a few hours of work every day, around 2 to 3 hours of work every day. And I was also looking for preparing questions for the app to some extent. And the remaining time I practically had to read was 3 to 4 hours a day. And these 3 to 4 hours every day, I was consistent in doing it. And I had a timetable. Whenever I took my book, it was a 1,000-page book, Hacker. I was determined to finish it in 10 to 12 days maximum. I think practically everybody can do it.
That's pretty incredible. I mean,
10 to 12 days, and each time I was sure that I had to read it again. One reading is not enough. Each reading I found new points.
Okay, okay. And you still are in a fellowship program
Yeah.
for Gynec Oncology. Did that help you in your preparation?
This year, actually, this year we did not have so too many practical questions from the course. They were all straightforward. This year, onco questions were quite straightforward. I would say last year I had a lot of questions which would help me if I were a fellow at that time. If I were a fellow at that time, there were questions which were talking about the anatomy, which we will know only if we perform oncosurgeries, not as a general organ. So that time it would have helped me. This year, I think everybody else can also crack it. It's not the perk of being a fellow alone.
So, what are the books you use for the obgyn part of the preparation?
So for obgyn part, it is totally Sakshi Arora. Sakshi Arora has a lot of practical questions, so many questions which you can keep practicing. It is so voluminous, so many questions are there, so you keep practicing. And I really find a lot of repeat questions in the NEET SS paper every time. And especially last year, there were so many repeats. This year, they were concept-based questions mostly. But Sakshi Arora is definitely going to help.
Okay, okay. And I have one more question for you. How useful is a search test app for preparation? You were involved in preparing the questions also. You contributed a lot of questions. You were a very active part of the Telegram group. How useful was the entire process, and how useful is the app per se?
There are three things I would like to say about the app. The first thing is that we read a lot of books, volumes of books, and finally we tend to believe that we know everything. But finally, when you actually solve a question, you feel that no, okay, there is some doubt, and you want to go back and refer. That is one thing. The other thing is the Telegram group. The Telegram group, whenever I posted a question, what happened was people used to message me in a private window, or maybe even in the group, this question is wrong, this option is wrong. So we got to discuss with a lot of people. We got to know a lot of people, what they aspire for and why do they want. And it is a kind of inspiration. It's a kind of collaboration and all that. So that is the second point. And the third point is that when I prepared the questions, when I tried to prepare the questions, I was my entire outlook towards the book changed. When I read each line through the book, I was looking for questions in each line. So it made me even more thorough.
It was a very interesting point you have raised, because you were involved in framing the questions. You were looking for MCQs in every line.
That's right.
So I mean, that is the way I think a person should approach their NEET SS preparation.
Exactly.
When you start reading a book, you will have to imagine what question could possibly be framed from that particular paragraph or particular sentence. So I think that's the most beautiful point you have put forward here today. And what book did you use for your infertility preparation?
Infertility, it was a last minute shock. So I did not have a lot of time. I practically read only Kamini Rao, because actually in OBG I was a gold medalist in reproductive endocrinology.
Okay, congratulations.
So I had actually done a lot of guidelines at that time. Now this was a last minute shock and I did not have time to go through all the guidelines. So the practical knowledge at that time, which I had gained at that time, plus Kamini Rao. Kamini Rao was a very short book, 5-day read, only 5-day read. 5 days, you can sure finish the book and you can answer the questions. Practically, most of the questions were from that.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a very personal question right now. You can do gynec surgeries, onco surgeries without a degree. What ignited that spark, that passion in you to sacrifice a lot of family time, sacrifice a lot of social time, and put a lot of effort in getting an MCH? What motivated you to do that?
Yeah, initially I was not so motivated initially. Okay, so all that I wanted was an MCA recognized degree to practice all over the country. That is one point. The other point is that when I started preparing, I got into touch with a lot of people who are actually post-fellowship people, either post-fellowship people or currently doing their fellowship. At one point of time, everyone starts feeling, I personally feel that, everyone starts feeling that they want an MCA, recognized MCH degree.
I can understand.
So that is always there. At one point, it is always there. It depends upon what you want from life, no one.
Absolutely. A person
can still be satisfied with fellowship, but at one point he should not regret for being a fellow or whatever. If he doesn't regret, it's fine.
I have one more question. 10 years down the line, where do you see yourself? How do you see yourself practicing? What specialty of medicine are you, like what specialty of subspecialization, or where do you look at yourself in 10 years down the line?
I know the initial part of the journey is going to be a little tough because we have to compete with the surgical oncologists out there. Okay, I'm quite sure about it. But I have also seen and worked with a couple of, I mean, not really a couple, because we have always seen surgical oncologists coming and giving opinions and all that. I can be sure of one particular point, that a gynec oncologist will definitely have a deeper section of knowledge about the gynec anatomy and the gynec management than a surgical oncologist, which will be proven in time. That's what I feel. That is one point. The other point is gynec oncology as a field has been approved and is flourishing all over the country right now. Maybe in Tamil Nadu, it is still under recognized, and it will definitely come up in the future.
Okay, so we are moving towards the era of subspecialization. The concept of surgical oncology, a broad specialty is slowly eroding. I mean, the concept of surgical oncology itself doesn't exist in the West. They have Gynec Oncology, they have uro-oncologists. So I think that's a very interesting point. We are moving towards the era of subspecialization, and I think Gynec Oncology is the way forward. Yeah. So before we wrap up the sessions, we have a few questions from a lot of people.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm just going to open the chat and just read out the question to you. Which book to read for the infertility part? I think she's already covered. She's spoken about Kamini Rao. When to start our PG preparation, ma'am? Which part of a PG shall we go ahead with prep? So can you start this preparation during your PG life?
If you want to, I mean, I finished my PG examinations in May, and we had an exam in June. If you really want to crack that, maybe the last 6 months itself you have to plan. The last 6 months of your PG course, definitely you have to plan. If you're okay with taking it after another year, still the problem is gynec onco seats are quite less. They are hardly 10. Good seats are 7 to 8 in the whole country. The whole country competes for those 7 to 8 seats. So if you really want it immediately, then you have to start at 6 months away.
So there are a lot of first-year OGPGs who are interested in gynec oncology. Would you recommend subscribing the Search Test app for them so that they get an idea of how the questions are going to be right from the start?
Yes, because you get to know you get to familiarize with the questions, and you know what to read. See, in OG we are going to read onco only one time. So that one, when you choose the right book to read, I think your job is done. If you're really interested in onco, why don't you do it early?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Divya has a question. Which guidelines to read, ESMO or NCCN for cancers?
ESMO doesn't seem to be quite recognized by a lot of people. NCCN is always safe. NCCN can be quoted. There are differences between NCCN and ESMO guidelines, especially in endometrial cancer.
Okay. What guidelines, what is the situation? Now that MCI has been taken over by NMC, what do you think it's going to mean for the term MCI recognized course?
I think both are interchangeable right now. It doesn't make a great difference until they have revised the ideas.
So, I mean, I'm going to answer that question. As of now, if you say that MCH is not recognized by NMC, that means your MS or your MD or your DNB degrees are also not recognized. So, what Aiswarya actually means is that a proper course which is recognized by any national body. So, it's not that as if that MCI, once MCI is taken over by or replaced by NMC, or MCH seats are going to get de-recognized or anything like that. So, I think we'll move ahead. For obstetrics, Williams, do we have to read line by line?
Absolutely not necessary. Absolutely not necessary. That is one a huge waste of time is what I feel. If you have read your Williams in your PG life, it is more than enough. That is going to come back with you. Entrance preparation is meant to be short and crisp. Just hit the nail on the hammer. That's it. Nothing more.
Are we supposed to make notes during preparation?
It depends on the individual, actually. There are a lot of people who make notes and read. I personally don't make notes because I prefer to read a number of other books also, not just Berek and Hacker. I didn't stick to Berek and Hacker alone because for AIMS, I had to answer questions from Devita. I found answers only in Devita for AIMS and a few guidelines. And they asked even from the FDA website directly, from trials, from everywhere they asked. for AIMS. And AIMS, it was close for me.
You really have prepared, I mean, tremendously. You deserve every bit of the same. So, there's one more question for you. Tell me how many questions you did not answer. This is to avoid negative markings.
Okay, I did not answer 2 questions because I was sure there was only 1 in 4 chance of getting it correct. So I did not want to take the chance.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. And there's one more question: Novak or Bereken hackers for gynae? Which one?
Bereken hacker, please. Bereken hacker. Novak is for the postgraduates. It's not for the super specialty preparation.
Okay. So there's some people have joined late in the meeting. So Aishwarya, in a brief, this thing, could you summarize all the books you use for your preparation and the basic points of your preparation? We'll at the end of this presentation, we'll also be sharing an image on our Telegram group, which Aishwarya has prepared for a flowchart where she has detailed the preparation in a beautiful image. So Aishwarya, you can just summarize your preparation in a few words.
Yeah. So I told you for OBG it was Sakshi Arora. Sakshi Arora, reading it one time is absolutely not important, not enough. You'll have to read it a number of times, at least 2 to 3 times. It depends on your memory and whatever, because it's quite volatile. For onco, it is for Gynec Onco, it is Bereken hacker. Definitely, every line by line is important because I have seen the exact lines appearing in the exams. So Bereken hacker is the book. And apart from that, if you're also aiming for AIMS, go ahead with Devita. Devita, you cannot, it is not necessary for you to read the whole book. There are quite a few chapters. And if you still want an extra edge in Devita for chemotherapy, for adverse effects, and a few basics, the sites of metastasis and all that, you can simply go through. When you, what I did was, I just skimmed through the whole book. When I skimmed through the whole book, whatever I thought was relevant to Gynec Onco, I read them alone and just underlined them and kept them. So that when I took it the next time to revise it, it was easy. So this was the second book. The third one was Barakat. Barakat gave me a few additional points, but I really do not feel that it made a big difference in the rank, or there were a huge number of questions from that. So I really don't recommend reading a lot of books. It is not necessary. Maybe if you find a place where you have notes or excerpts from all these books, then that is going to make your job easier. Not too many books.
The best part of subscribing to the Search Test app is that Aishwarya is going to incorporate all the questions, all the notes she has made into the question banks, and she's also going to give the reference from which book she has taken that. So that is the future of the Search Test app. That's what we are looking forward to in the next few months. And it's a matter of great pride for me personally, for the entire team, Gopi, me, Suprabha, that Aishwarya has got a fantastic rank this year. And let me just check whether we have any more questions. Using a book or a PDF, does that make any difference?
I think it's a personal feeling. I use a lot of PDFs only. I don't read the hard copies mostly because they are easy to carry.
So Aishwarya is telling you have to move into the next era. If you're stuck in the previous era trying to read hard copies of the books, it may not be possible for you to read at any point of time. I'm not a gynec oncologist. I'm not even an obstetrician. I'm a surgeon, but I do have a bit of experience in telling people how to prepare. And from my personal experience, it is persistent hard work which brings you good ranks. And the most important part of it is trying to make all your reading materials mobile. That's where the use of an app comes into play. You are in between 2 cases, solve 2-3 questions on the app, see a few videos on the app. If you don't have time, if you're waiting for your girlfriend or your wife at the bus stop, use that moment to solve a few questions. As none of you are just out of MBBS where you have the liberty to stay without a job or not have a social life at all. We are not in a stage where we can take 7 months of our life completely without any responsibilities. We might have to drop our spouses at their workplace. We might have to pick kids from school. We might have to cook. We might have to do a lot of things. So the idea is to maximize what little time you have. Use an app, use your PDFs. 10 minutes you're spending somewhere, use a PDF on your phone to scroll through things. So I think that makes a hell lot of a difference. And one personal tip I can give you is store your PDFs on a Google Drive.
Exactly.
So if you highlight it, you can use it on multiple devices. When you're using your phone, I know a lot of PGs who who are teased for using an iPad to read from a PDF. Their senior PGs or their assistants say, oh, why are you spending too much time reading? Nobody likes it when you're reading. So I have found, I'm going to be guilty, even when I was a PG, I used to do that. So that a lot of people don't scold me. I used to make sure that I read my PDFs on my phone. And I used to highlight them on my phone. And when I used to go back, the highlighted PDFs used to be there on my iPad as well, because I was using a Google Drive. So you should be able to squeeze in time. It's pretty much like what Jawaharlal Nehru said. So Jawaharlal Nehru was very famous for reading a lot of books. And people used to ask him, you are the Prime Minister, you spend a lot of time working, saving the country, doing a lot of things in the country. How do you manage the time to read? So he said that I steal time. So the biggest, the best quality a surgeon or a gynecologist can have is you should have the ability to steal time. Time is wasted in seconds. It's not wasted in hours. So that is something which you should put into mind. We have one more last question before we sing. Do we need to read Tilind? T-E-L-I-N-D. What is that book? I don't know.
You don't need to read Thielen for preparation of Gynec Onco surgery exam. These are books. I mean, Thielen is a book where you have to read during your PG life, and almost everybody would have read them. At least the most important chapters we would have covered them. That is enough. All the questions will be covered in Sakshi Arora. You think you won't be covering, but all those questions will be there in Sakshi Arora, and Sakshi Arora will be, those questions will be, you will keep on repeating them only. So it's about the number of times you keep on repeating the repeats. Only a person who gets all the repeats correct gets into the competition at all. That's what I found out.
Like search test app practice for Gynec Onco, where did you practice infertility questions? Infertility questions are not there on the app right now, but it's a promise from me and Aishwarya, both of us, that in about 3 to 4 months, you will have infertility questions. We can't promise the exact date, but really soon we are going to have infertility questions on the search test app as well. So we are working on it, and I can promise that it's going to be really soon when these questions come. If you have any more doubts, you can just post them on the chat right away, or we're going to close the meeting. Please add notes on the app. Yes, that's a good suggestion. We are going to take that suggestion up. Advice for old PG graduates.
Anybody, whoever
old
it is.
PG.
Yeah, I understand. Whoever it is Sakshi Arora 3 times reading, and Bereken Hacker 2 to 3 times reading, depending upon how much your memory is or whatever, and a good number of practice from app like Surgery Test, where you can actually test your knowledge and really work out a minimum 50 questions per day in an app would really take you a long way. That is going to improve your rank greatly. I'm really sure, because this is exactly what I did. Every afternoon after I have a meal, I used to work out 50 to 75 questions. As I got closer to the exam, I started working out 100 questions. Every afternoon, 100 questions. And at night, I used to, every time I read a book, what I used to do is take screenshots of the book, or take, if it is a hard copy book, I used to take pictures of the book and then review those photos at night. 20 photos per day. That converted all the short-term memory into long-term memory. This is definitely, it really worked out for me. It should work out for other people also, I think.
Oh, that's I mean, you have a very interesting strategy, and I'm pretty surprised and pretty amazed the kind of hard work you have put while handling your family, while handling your profession. I think that's incredible. So general obstetric questions, yes, we're going to plan that. Okay, we have Dr. Vijaya here with us on the Zoom chat, and she conveys her wishes to you on the chat. And
thanks a lot, ma'am. Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself.
Ma'am, you can unmute yourself. And
yeah, hi Aishu. Hi Vinayak, how are you?
Hi, ma'am. Awesome. It's all because of mentors like you, ma'am. You've always been an inspiration to us.
Yeah, great. I feel really proud that all my students are getting good marks, and that too first in super speciality, and all shows your hard work. And Vinayak, of course, being supportive to you. And Vinayak, your test is so popular, the search test. I asked a few of my PGs, and they all know that.
Oh, thank you so much, ma'am.
You've all been a part of our discussions also, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm just watching you. Yeah, carry on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
for onlookers. Dr. Vijay is the senior most obstetrician and gynecologist in the government service in Tamil Nadu, and we are really proud to have her with us today. And she's a teacher for all of us here.
And
So
madam is
it's a great
and
honor
madam
to have
is
you with us.
and madam is the director of IOG right now.
Oh, great. So it's a great honor to have you with us, ma'am, today.
Yeah,
And thank you so much, Aishwarya. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a very emotional moment for a new company to have rank 1 at such an early stage. I think
Yeah, continue your good work and